and trust yourself. If
Exactly.
it, you know, do you need support in making choices, different choices? Great. You have the chance to do that every day. And because you didn't make the choice you wish you would have made today, you can make it tomorrow.
Welcome today to this is my first official podcast, Midlife Momentum. That's the name that I
Love
came
it.
up with. So hopefully that'll stick, and that's what we're going to go with. And Laura is my first guest, Laura Campbell. And I'm going to just read a little bit about your background because I want people to
Sure.
really understand what you do, and then I want to tell them how we know each other. But I think it's very impressive that you are an author, speaker, coach, and strategist dedicated to helping women unleash their full potential and create meaningful, purpose driven lives. You have a passion for empowering women to reimagine what's possible. You have a trusted guide for high achieving women, executives, entrepreneurs, and innovators as they navigate challenges, embrace change, and design the life that they desire. You are a leading coach and you are the founder of Unfolding, a leading coaching and strategy firm. And you're the vice president of strategy and partnerships, and you're the principal consultant at Inspire Corps, a women owned, inspiration driven people strategy firm. Laura has a proven track record of guiding women to quiet the noise, which we all need, gain clarity, and take bold action towards their goals. And I do want to, just reference to your education because you have what's a BBA?
Business degree. It's a
Okay,
bachelor of business. Yep.
okay, in finance from George Washington University. You have an MBA in strategic planning from the New York University Stern School of Business, and you have certifications in life and executive coaching from LPI Life Purpose Institute and HR management from Cornell University. And I think that's all extremely impressive. And how you and I met, we met through a common friend, colleague way back when. And I think of everything about, I'm like, it was definitely like BC before COVID, but it might have been in 20,
A long time ago. Yeah.
something like that. And you actually helped guide me through my divorce.
Hmm.
And it was so strategic because I remember how you really helped me when it came to that moment of talking to the children and how my ex and I are very good friends. We have a very good relationship, but I remember the two of us just being like, we did not want to do that, but you sort of gave me like a step by step. All right, this is how you're going to do it. These are the questions to ask. Let them just sit and feel what they feel. And so a huge thank you to you. I hope I've told you that over the years, but it
Yeah.
really made a huge difference. It really did. And because of that, my kids, divorce is never easy for anybody, even when it's somewhat amicable like ours was. But my kids never suffered any anxiety. We never used them as a weapon. We never did any of that stuff. They always felt loved by both of us, and we all still gather as a family periodically and have dinner or whatever. So it's always been it's always been okay for them. Like they never had any major emotional issues around it. So, and I know that's not always the case.
No, no, it's not,
So,
unfortunately.
but what I want to talk about today is first question, and I think a lot of women will resonate with this, is why do we default to negative self-talk? Meaning, and I know because I do it sometimes. I'm not smart enough. I can't possibly do this on my own. I don't have enough education. I'm not pretty enough. I need to be thinner. I need to lose weight. I need this. I need that. Like, why do we do that? As I think, I think it's something that we only do as women. I don't see a lot of men doing that, but maybe they do. But I know as women, we just kind of default that way. So why is that? And then what strategies do you have to sort of counteract that when women kind of want to go in that direction?
Yeah, that's a big one, right? That's a big one. But let's look at it through a few different lenses. Let's look at it through the fact that our brains, the way that our brains work, a healthy human brain is going to default to what is missing, what is not there, what is not working, right? So we automatically default to that. We look at something, we'll be looking at, I just moved. So I was looking at homes to rent, and you walk in and you immediately look at everything that's not right.
Right.
everything that's not good that I don't like, instead of, oh, let me first look at all the things that are. Let me train my brain a little bit to default to what is good, what is working. And we are terrible with ourselves around that, right? We are consistently looking at what we don't like, what we think isn't good. And we have to work really hard to default to what is really wonderful about me, what is really wonderful about the way I show up in the world or in my work or in my body, right? I mean, there's so many things we can do. I work with a lot of well, a lot of working professional executive women, and it doesn't matter how smart they are, and it doesn't matter how competent. What ends up happening is we I work with them on how to tell the story of how remarkable they are. And you can't imagine how hard that is for us as women to put together a narrative about ourselves that tells how extraordinary we are. What are I would challenge anyone listening to this to think about, what are your strengths? What are your talents? What do people look to you for? And how are you perceived and received by others? There's a wonderful exercise called the reflected best self.
Okay.
And it's where you take half a dozen people in your life, and there's actually a real exercise with a certain number of questions, but the essential nature is you're asking people what they see in you. You're asking them, and it's overwhelming when you get those responses back, because we honestly diminish the impact we have on others and the way others perceive us and experience us. And all of the work that I do in the world is about supporting women to look at that. What are the ways that I am perceived? What are my talents? What are the ways I contribute and add value? And that goes for everything, including body. And I know how much work you do with women to appreciate what their bodies are capable of and the ways that our bodies work for us, not the way they look, but what they do for us and what they allow us to be capable of. And we just don't do that. We're defaulting on, look at this role and look at
Right.
this thing and look at, all of that versus I'm standing here doing amazing things with my body.
Exactly. Do you find that, high-powered executive women also, I guess, also suffer from this? And I would think they may even suffer more because they have more pressure on them. Maybe they're more in a male environment and they feel like they have to not, get emotional in a meeting or not, if a woman acts very assertive, I don't want to say aggressive, but assertive, maybe the way a man would in leadership, she can be labeled a bitch or she's this or she's moody or, they say those kind of things. So it's hard. It's going to be really hard to be a woman in an executive spot in a high profile job where you are going to be criticized if you're too forthright. But then if you're not enough, they're going to criticize you because you're acting like a woman or being emotional or something.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We as women, right, gross a little bit of a generalization, but we often assume responsibility for the emotions of others,
Right.
right? So that that has us always second guessing what what we are doing, what we are saying, how we are acting or behaving, right? So I was coaching a woman, and she was advocating for herself in a really important way that would protect her, actually legally. And she said, I'm being perceived as being difficult. And she said, and I heard that, I'm being so bitchy. And we had a whole conversation around, isn't it interesting? You're protecting yourself legally, as they would do,
Right.
as anyone else would have done, but their frustration, their need for you to acquiesce or to give in or to make their life easier because you weren't willing to do that, you are now a bitch. We can say, I am sorry that you feel that way, and it's really important for me to advocate for myself and not assume responsibility for what other people are feeling about us in
Right.
general.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's a big one. It really is. Because no one's going to look out for you but you at the end of the day. I mean, you've got to
And
self advocate.
it's really important for others
Mm-hmm.
to manage their own. That's how they learn how to manage their own emotions. It's like our kids, right? Anyone out there listening who's a parent, we don't like to do the hard things sometimes as a parent because we don't want to make people upset. We don't make our kids upset, right? We don't want them to be mad at us or not to love us or to guess what? It's really important for us to do what we think is the right thing to do and for them to learn how to manage their emotions. And those emotions are not our emotions. They're
Absolutely.
not.
Absolutely. It's, being a business owner myself too, I've really had to work on my own like inner business muscles, if you will. I mean, it's just like going to the gym the first time. You got to keep going and going and going to build the conditioning, build the muscle. It's a process. And I've learned that, I have to advocate for myself. I have to speak up. Sometimes I have to have difficult conversations with people, whether it's an employee or whatever it is. But it can be, sometimes it's like, oh, you know what, I'll just take the path of least resistance and just not make any waves and just whatever. But that's not a good thing either, because that leaves you feeling a certain way also.
Because you haven't actually honored how you really the truth, right? What we're talking about is the truth, right? So whether it's with your partner, boyfriend, partner,
Mm-hmm.
spouse, or with your kids, or with a friend, or with colleagues, if we are not speaking our truth, it's most likely because we are afraid of the outcome. There's some fear base in there that if I say this, if I do this, they're going to think this way of me. They will leave me. They won't like me. They will be disappointed in me. And so that's our work. Our work is to say, actually, the more I speak my truth and allow for people to have whatever reaction they're going to have,
Mm-hmm.
we actually will find peace and liberation. We'll find you're liberated. Now, will there be a cost or a loss? Yes, right? If you speak in your marriage about this is not working for me
Right.
because of this, that, or the other, is there a chance your marriage may end? Yes. And is that better or worse than staying and not speaking your truth and living in some life of mediocrity in which you feel unfulfilled forevermore?
Yeah. That actually opens the door to one of the questions I have for us on my list is, I talk to a lot of women all the time, as do you. And, a lot of women are in relationships and they're not happy. Happy. I know happy is, I use that term loosely. My therapist doesn't like that word happy. She's like, oh, I don't like that
What is that, right? What is that thing, happiness, anyway? Right.
word.
It comes, it goes, right?
But it's interesting because a lot of women will stay in relationships. And of course, the number one reason always is kids, right? I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave. I have kids. But I always, my thought process was, my kids are going to grow up and live their own lives and go off and do their own thing. And then what? Then you're with someone that you're not super excited about being with. Like, like when the kids are there and they're little, you're busy taking care of them and you don't think about it. You're distracted, and the days come and go and you play your role. But, when they get older and they go to college and then they go off on their own, it's like, well, then what? Like you just missed, I know being a mom is, 100%, you give all the time, but you still have a life. You're still an individual.
There's so much in there, Linda.
Yeah,
It's
it
so
is.
important. So there's the divorce with kids, right, which has its own set of complexity and its
Mm-hmm.
own set of really hard. There's people who stay in relate. Listen, we stay in things at large too long.
Right.
We overstay things often, whether we overstay a relationship, a marriage, stay in work we don't like,
Mm-hmm.
stay in friendships that aren't serving us anymore. Even we stay living in places that actually we know we don't even like living, like we don't even like. Now, there's specifics to each one of those things. Underlying all of it is a couple of things. One is that it doesn't feel good to let go of something. There's complexity, there's tension, there can be conflict, there can be pain and loss and grief in any of those situations, work, relationship, friendship, all of it. Those things, that is true. Those things are going to happen. You're going to have those yucky feelings, and it's going to feel sad. It's going to feel lonely. It's going to feel, there's going to be despair, most likely, right? We know that. We know that for any time you are considering speaking truth and letting go of something in service of something else. The other thing that happens for us is we don't believe that something better is possible. And that's that brain is going to what's not possible versus what is possible, right?
Right.
I know. So I've been married and divorced. I've had a long-term relationship that also ended. I've moved. I've left jobs. All of the different, I haven't experienced every transition, but I've experienced a lot of them. I've moved alone across the country. Very scary. All of these choices
Absolutely.
are
You were born
incredibly
a first,
scary.
right? You were born
I picked up, I moved somewhere, and then I said, "This is not for me." Like Goldilocks, I'm going somewhere else. And you start to build a muscle.
first.
But here's what I would say to any woman, who's listening to this is that we get to reimagine, and there's so much that is possible when you believe it. Will there be another relationship? Yes, there will be another relationship for you in the future. Will it be exactly the same as the one you had? No, it will not. If you choose to get divorced, will you get through it? Yes, you will. What will it exactly look like? I don't know, but you'll have the opportunity to shape that,
Right.
right? If you let go of a friendship, will it hurt? Yes. Will you find other people who align to your life? Yes, you will, right? I moved across country to a place I knew no one, didn't have community, didn't have friendships. Is there an opportunity to build them? Yes, I've made amazing community and amazing friendships. There's so much that's possible, but it's going to take releasing things, and it's going to take a trust and a belief that I can actually take some action, and things will show up. It's scary. Not gonna lie, it's scary.
It really is. It is. And I love that expression, fear, false events appearing real, because, and I know I'm guilty of this too. Like you build things up in your head, like your imagination takes over, like you said, whether it's a conversation that you need to have with someone, or moving or changing jobs or changing relationships. It's like what you just said. It's like, well, what if this doesn't work out, or what if that doesn't work out? And it's interesting how you and I were just talking about how we met, and you know, it's just it's like taking steps to just step out there and see what else is out there. It's like the book. I love that book, and I'm sure you've read it. Who Moved My Cheese?
Mm-hmm. Love it.
And it's funny because my daughter and I were in the bookstore when during Christmas we were home in Massachusetts, and she's like, "Oh, what is that book about?" I'm like, "Oh, that's a great book." I'm like, "You should read it. It's a pretty quick read." But I love how it's all about like venturing out. Like these mice keep going to the same spot every day, right? And there's always cheese and there's abundance and they're happy, and why change anything? And then one day they go and it's gone. And one is like, no, we got to just stay here and wait for it to come back. And the other one's like, no, we got to go out into the dark maze and try to figure it out. And it's so true. I mean, that book, I don't know when it was written, but it just applies. It applies.
It applies because our lives are shaped one choice at a time. One choice, right? You make the choice, and I can give you a million examples of my own experience and those of my clients and the women that I work with. Doing one choice, one scary choice. I'm going to do this
Right.
by myself. And all of a sudden it was the best night, and I met this person, and this person came in, and I was invited here, and this all one each choice then opens up a few more doors, and then you walk into each of those and they open up, and all of a sudden you're in a time of expansion. You asked, why do we stay in things?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we, so here's the thing that I think is at the core of so much of our ability to actually take action and have this movement forward. And it has to do with building a relationship with ourselves, building, I call it a relationship with aloneness,
Mm-hmm.
not loneliness.
Right.
I'm not talking about loneliness, aloneness. It's how am I building a relationship that has me living a life that is super fulfilled on my own, that I'm doing things I love, that I'm taking care of myself in ways that make me feel good, that the people in my life are, the friendships, the relationships are fulfilling and nurture me, that the work I'm doing in the world feels good. Investing in doing that, and the rest 100% falls into place, right?
Yeah.
It just does. But you got to work. You got to do it. It just doesn't happen. You
Right.
do the work, right? I watch every video of yours, every time you talk to women about doing the work, showing up, just doing it, right? Sometimes you don't feel like it, sometimes, but we have to keep doing it and we have to believe. And of course, the results come. The results come.
The results come and it gets easier and easier each time too. It's interesting. My daughter, who's 19, and she wanted to join this gym that's close to us here in Connecticut for Christmas. So I bought her a membership, and she was apprehensive about going like the first few times because she doesn't know anybody. She doesn't know the lay of the land, how to use the equipment. I mean, she knows how to navigate a gym, but it's interesting. I said to her, I'm like, you got to just keep going. Cause she's like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, you got to go and you're going to meet people that are there and you'll start to see the same people over and over when you go at the same time. And then it's just going to be, I said, you know what? I get like that too when I travel and I go into a new gym. Because I walk in, I'm like, all right, I search for certain equipment. This is what I do. So like nobody likes to walk into somewhere by themselves, whether it's
Of
a
course not.
party or a gym or whatever it is, right? Where people might be like, oh, I don't know who that person is. So when I walk into a gym, what I do is I just go right to a treadmill. I get on a treadmill and I walk for a little while I look around. Like that's so I'm doing something and I can see where everything is. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go over here first. And I learned like the lay of the land and how I want to navigate it. And then I feel good. Or if I walk into a party or an event, which I go to a lot of stuff by myself, networking things, and I don't know anybody, and I look around at people and sometimes I'll just go like get some water, get a glass of seltzer or water, and then I'll just walk around and make eye contact with someone and introduce and say hello. Or sometimes you always see somebody that you recognize, or so like that's always been my MO. Like no one likes to walk in somewhere by themselves, but like when you have sort of a plan of how you're going to navigate it, and it always works out fine because then I end up seeing or learning or something, and it's always a great thing.
People want, by nature, almost all people, there are some that don't, but most people want to make other people comfortable,
Right.
right? If you saw someone uncomfortable, you try to do something to make them comfortable. My strategy is often to name the awkward or to lean into. So I will often walk into, let's just use the example of a gym. I'd walk to the front desk and say, I'm totally new. I don't know anyone here. I don't know this gym. All of a sudden it's like, oh, let me show you, let me
Yeah.
tell you, let me meet, introduce you to, you should talk to. Before you know it, there's like 1,000 things coming at you, or you go into a party or you go into a networking event and you say, I'm really new here. I've never been here before. I really don't know anybody. And all of a sudden, someone finds you and says, "Oh, my name is, let me introduce you to so and so." And you name the awkward. It feels a little awkward. I haven't done this before,
Right.
and all of a sudden people lean in. I mean, anyone listening to this, if someone discloses their discomfort to you, what would you do? You would lean in. I know you all. You would do that. You would not leave the person out there hanging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it can be very intimidating walking in somewhere, especially if it's an event or a networking or whatever, and people are already in kind of groups, segregated, in groups having a conversation, but sometimes it's just like, okay, just I just sort of nuzzle my way in and be like, hey, introduce yourself kind of thing. And it takes a little bit of courage sometimes.
A little? It's tremendous courage.
But
Any of these things we're talking about takes inordinate courage. And from the courage, frankly, comes your confidence. I did that.
Right.
You got divorced. It took tremendous courage,
Still does.
right? Every step of the way. And then you start to say, wow, I did that. And I would challenge anyone to think about the most difficult things you've been through, because we all have been through difficult things. And you can stand very proudly on that and say, I got through that. It may have been hard, it may have crushed me, but I'm standing. And now I have an opportunity to build something extraordinary for myself. I can shape it one small. I've watched you, Linda. I remember the first time you were like, I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do this, and look at what you've built for, it's tremendous, but it happened one action,
Mm-hmm.
one choice, one piece of courage after the next to continue doing something, even when feeling the fear, even when doubting, even
Oh,
when,
totally.
I mean, you know that. And then all of a sudden you look back and you go, holy shit, look what I built. Look what I'm doing.
Right. I know. And it is. I think we need to do that as women is look back from where we came and give ourselves credit, because I don't think we give ourselves enough credit either. I feel like we're constantly like, well, I need to be, I'm not doing this yet. I need to do this. I need to do that. And we criticize ourselves for the things that we feel like we haven't achieved yet. I still do it sometimes now too. It's like, I really want to be here and I'm not there yet, but it's just, show, like you said, showing up every day and just putting foundation layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And then you start to see.
Because one of my favorite expressions is, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there, right? If anyone would have asked you, or anyone would have asked me, I'm divorced almost 20 years now. If anyone would have asked me at that time in my life, going through my divorce, that less than 20 years later, my kids would be fully independent and happy, healthy, whole, that I would I completely changed careers, and I have a business, that I love. And I have moved after 52 years of living in Connecticut. I didn't quite get to Colorado. I got to Florida first, but now I'm in Colorado, in a place that lights up my soul because I'm near the mountains. If anyone would have told me
Mm-hmm.
that I'd be here today, I would never have believed them. I'd have been like, you've got to be kidding. There is no way that is my path.
Yeah.
You have to be open, though. You have to be willing to be open to see what's possible, right? What we're busy doing, let's come full circle, is saying,
Right.
oh, well, I don't have enough money for that. I can't do that. There's no way that that could be possible. Or I could never leave here. I could never sell my house. I could never get out of this marriage. I could never change careers. Bullshit. I'm just going to call bullshit on that. Will it be hard? Yes. Will it take courage? 100%. Will there be moments of amazing exhilaration and moments of deep failure and despair? 100%. And every step is going to move you closer to that vision for what's possible.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think it's so true. And, one thing I want to switch gears a little bit is talk a little bit too about imposter syndrome. So dealing with women that, are professional women that may feel. So I listened to a book called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. Do you know the book?
Yeah, you told me about the book,
Okay.
actually.
And I have it on Audible. I don't have it hard copy, and because I listened to it. There was a point when I listened to it a lot, and because I kind of battled that a little bit in the beginning, like, why does anybody want to listen to me? Are people going to be sick of hearing from me? Why do I want to keep posting on social media? And it was just a great book, though. It really helped, and they talked to a lot of professional women that you would be like, oh my word, they felt like that. So it, like, actresses and just other people that are high up in their careers. But do you deal with that a lot with women, as far as in some of the executive circles, even women that are higher up? Do they still battle that a little bit, or they did and they overcame it? Or
Every single woman I've ever met, bar none,
yeah.
has had a version of imposter syndrome, who doesn't think that they know enough, they're smart enough, they've accomplished enough. that they have legitimacy in their thoughts, opinions, talent 100% of the time. And here's what I would say
Okay.
is we have to acknowledge that's a voice that comes up to protect us. It's not a conscious voice, but it's a voice that is in us that wants to protect us. We have to recognize that that voice exists, and we have to be gentle with it. We have to acknowledge it.
Right.
And then we have to say, thank you so much. I understand you want to protect me. You don't want me to be foolish. You don't want me to fail. You don't want me to be embarrassed. That's the voice of protection. And guess what? You are really smart. And all you and I both are working, a lot with midlife women. Guess what? We've earned wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Wisdom is very different from knowledge. The kids coming out of college today, they got knowledge we don't have. Like they
Right.
just do. They know how to do things. My kids are like, you just took 35 steps to do something that you could do in one step.
No.
I'm like, yeah, but I like my 35 steps. I like the long way around. They have knowledge that we don't have. But guess what we have that they don't? And guess we have wisdom and experience. And that cannot be microwaved. You cannot get that until you've lived a bit. And so I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom. I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just a philanthropic leader or a high-powered executive. We are all in this together, and we all are so wise just because we've been through it a few times. And we've done the hard things, and we've come out here on this side still standing
Mhm.
and still saying things are imperfect, and I have an opportunity today and every single day to make a new choice.
Yep. I know. That's the beauty of it.
Every day, every
That's the
day.
beauty of it. And I talked to a business coach one time briefly, and he was saying to me, we were talking about the imposter syndrome, and he said, he's like, Lynn, look, he said, what your message is helping women. He's like, you're trying to help people, you're giving good information. He's like, that's what you do. He said, look around, and this was great. He just said, look at, like, if you put the news on or you look at government or any of those people, he's like, look at some of the things that these people are saying. He's like, that are either not true or they can't back it up, or he's like, people just say wrong things all the time, and they're on like national TV. He's like, he's like, look at that. And it made me think, like, what? He's right. Like, I know what I'm saying. I don't claim to know everything. I don't like when people say nutrition expert or women's health expert, because I'm like, I'm not an expert. I don't know everything. There are some things I'm always learning every day, reading, researching, trying to understand new things. I said, but I will say that I'm a woman's health advisor or advocate or
You're a coach too. You're asking hard questions. You're provoking
so.
people.
But it made me realize, I'm like, you're right. Like, there are people saying really false things on national TV. So I'm like, and I'm not saying false things, I'm saying real things. So it sort of helped me realize that, that resonated with me, because, we think sometimes like, oh, I don't want to say that, or I might sound dumb, or people might think I'm dumb, or someone might criticize. But we have to have that strong resolve in ourselves that we're coming from a place of, this is what I know, and this is how I want to try to help you.
And guess what? People come, I'm sure, to you. They definitely come to me
Mm.
for me to reflect back on them, things they already know. I'm not going to tell you something you don't already know.
Right.
Girlfriend, you know. And I'm sure they come to you. They know. Like,
Right.
when it comes to our bodies, we know what's good for our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Is it good to drink too much?
No.
No. I can tell you that if you need me to reflect back and to be a guide and to support you with how do I make a different choice, great. But girls out there, women, sisters, and trust yourself. If
Exactly.
it, do you need support in making choices, different choices? Great. You have the chance to do that every day. And because you didn't make the choice you wish you would have made today, you can make it tomorrow. It's
Exactly.
like we always throw it all out. If I didn't
Yep.
do it today, I'm
Yep. No,
like,
we're done.
I've
I'm
given
done.
up on the whole thing. Nope, you get
Didn't
to do
work.
that. You get to do that today. You get to make another choice today that
Exactly.
leads you closer to how you want to feel. And
Exactly.
I will argue, let's look at how we want to feel, not like how we want to look or
Right.
how we want what we want the scale to say, or how much money we want to make. How
Right.
do you want to feel? I want to feel free. I want to feel peaceful.
Hmm.
I want to feel good and strong and healthy and vibrant. Yes, there's a million pathways for that. A million pathways.
Absolutely. And I never look at anything, but I've worked, I've worked at this. So it's not easy for people that are listening. It's not like,
Mm-mm.
have it taken care of, but to sit and looking, and I'm not saying, it's okay to get down on yourself at times. And my thought process is it's okay to get down on yourself. It's okay to feel maybe defeated, but the difference is how long do you stay in that space? Is it days, weeks, months, or is it maybe 24 hours? You have a moment and then you're like, all right, this is not, I don't like to look at things as failure. I'd rather
No,
look at it and say, okay, I did the thing. It didn't work the way I had hoped it would work. I will do it again, but let's look to see like where did I fall short? Like what do I need to work on? Was it more marketing? Was it more this? Was it more network? What do I need to do to fix it so that next time it's the result that I want to have?
I, yes, and you're making me think of something that I really want to say because I think this is really important. There is clinical depression. There are times that people have clinical depression. It is real. You deserve support and help clinically, and I am totally supportive of that. And there are times when your soul is telling you what it needs and we're not listening. So if you are sad and crying, if you are not sleeping, if you find yourself irritable, sometimes it's our soul saying something's supposed to change. I know for me, I felt a lot of that when I knew my marriage, it was time to end my marriage. And it's really hard to get to that moment of like speaking your truth, even to yourself. But that's where it starts. Speak it to yourself, sit with it, say, wow, holy shit, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I don't have to burn the whole thing down right now. Let me just sit with what I think I need, or I need to leave this job, right? Or this friendship is really toxic. It's not supporting me. Or I've got to stop drinking in excess. Like this is not, I don't feel good. I feel, and so it's okay. You don't have to, you don't have to beat yourself up. The whole point, I'm just inviting you to speak your truth to yourself. Don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to do anything about it. The first
Right.
step is just to say,
Identify it.
I think this is what I need.
Yeah, I know. And that's a big deal.
Huge.
It's a big deal because it is funny how we can just sort of lie or deceive ourselves into thinking, oh, everything's fine, it's not that bad, or we make excuses for things when we know that it's just not authentic. It doesn't sit.
It doesn't feel right. That's right. And instead, what we do as women, and I'm sure you did it, I've done it. There's something wrong with me. I hear
Yeah,
women say, there must be something wrong with me. Like I'm crying all the time, or I'm a mess. I hear women saying, I'm a mess. No, you're not. No, you're not. What if what feels really messy is just that there's something you need? There's something you want, and you haven't actually said it out loud. Say it out loud, just to yourself.
yeah.
And then you can figure out what does it mean to start to move towards that, to get
How
that.
do you feel about like journaling and writing things down too? Like not only
I
in
love
for
that. If
yourself,
you feel comfortable doing it and you feel safe doing it, and 100%, 100%.
good. Yeah,
Anything you need to do to be able to give yourself permission to speak the truth of what you really want, what you long for, and to try to suspend all the constraints that you put on it. Like it's not possible. I could never. I hear people say it all. I could never sell my house. Really? Never?
I know. I know. Yeah, you can.
Well, maybe you could. I thought for 52 years I lived in Connecticut, like near my parents. Like, could I leave Connecticut and go across the country? Yeah, I did. Holy shit, nobody would have told me that I would have
Yeah,
done
that's
that.
big. That's cool. That's a big
It's
move.
really big. It's a big thing. But we have one life,
Yep, I totally agree.
one life, and you get to live it, in whatever way you want to live it.
And I think the older we get, the more in tune we are to that, to having the one life. Because do you know Jesse Itzler?
Yeah, of course.
Love him. And, he's 55, same age as I am. But I love his message because he's just like, he's like, I'm 55. What am I waiting for? Like, start the thing, do the thing. Just, yeah, he's so great. So people that are listening to this don't know who he is, they should follow. But before we finish, tell the listeners best place to find you, if someone wants to work with you, if someone wants your support, your help, like how do they find Laura Campbell?
So you can easily go to my website, which is Your Unfolding, your unfolding.com. Just sign up for my newsletter. You know what? I only send it out like every 6 weeks, 6 weeks, and it's just full of my musings. And but there are things that coming up. For example, on January 29th, I'm going to do an evening. I do it myself. It's my process for looking at a new year. It's a process, and we're going to do it together online, virtually. Would love for women to say, I just want to think about and reimagine what 2024 might look like.
Yeah,
So if you join that, I'll send out information. And people can reach out to me through my website anytime. I'm happy to hop on a call and just explore what's true for you right now. What what might you want to reimagine? And again, we don't have to burn the whole thing down to begin to think about how do I move just one step closer to what I want, right?
yeah,
It's really about, if there's anything that I could invite women to do, it's to just start to give ourselves permission to speak our truth.
absolutely. I love that. That was a great chat, and I'll post all the info. I'll have you email me all that info. So
How
I,
fun.
I had
You're
a
awesome. I know it's getting dark over there, but your podcast is gonna rock.
it's only like not even 5 o'clock. I'm like, come on, son, stay out for a few more
Just
minutes.
a little few more minutes, right?
I'm like shrinking back here. But yeah, I'll put all that info there because that sounds great on the 29th. How long is that? Is it what time are you doing it?
It's going to be 2 hours. The first
Okay.
hour is going to be kind of looking through this, and I'll talk through how to use this process. The second is an open conversation where
Okay.
hopefully women will say, here's what I'm thinking about, and we'll have like this, what might that look like? So it's discussion, it's an AMA, ask me anything.
That'll be awesome. Well, I think you're amazing, and I'm so glad we did
I
this.
love
I'm
you.
so glad you're my first person on my Midlife
Yay.
Momentum because it's a great time in life for women. It really is. It's just we know who we are. We say no. We don't do things we don't want to do anymore. And I love that.
The world needs every one of us, every woman, to be living a life that feels good and happy, healthy, and whole. The world will change, the world will heal when we are living a life that makes us happy. That's when it's going
Absolutely.
to change.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And it was great. And I will let you know when we post this, and I'll put all your info so everybody can reach out to you because you are a wealth of information.
You too, my love.